There is no jiazi in the mountains, and the cold year does not know the age. Ah, Axi. Yunsu put down the tong xianjing in his hand tremblingly, leaned on the bed, and looked at the white snow outside the window. So lonely. It's too cold, and the whole body is stiff, and the movement of turning the book is not easy. He picked up the short wooden stick on the ground, put it into the quilt that wrapped his lower body, and groped for the warm baby in the earthenware pot. With trembling hands, he plucked out 2 pieces of charcoal from the ashes, only then did he feel that the coldness was less severe. The frost-bitten leg also seemed to have regained some consciousness. He regained his strength and continued to read. This time I played a big game, and the lazy house prostituted a world of immortality for nothing. The night before the accident, it was Yunsu's 20th birthday. He just got a 5-star card for free in a mythology mobile game. Greater desire for prostitution. Immortal. When he woke up, he slept in the ice and snow. He didn't know how long he had been lying there. A few days later, he still felt cold curled up in the quilt. If he hadn't met Wang Mixuan, the head of the Suanmu sect, he might have fed the wild wolves in the mountains. The head of Wang Shuiye returned from a serious injury and brought him back to the Suanmu sect before the deadline. Yunsu had only half his life left. Lying on the bed, Wang Mixuan healed his wounds, which cost a lot. He leaned against the wall beside the window, panting like a cow, his face as pale as paper. "Yeah, wild boy, what's your name?" Cough, cough, Cloud, Yunsu. Yunsu, I'm going to die soon, and the Suanmu sect is over. When you're well, take the children down the mountain, think of a way, and settle them. When Wang Mixuan said this, he paused for a moment. Yunsu thought to himself, he was about to take care of Gu, but when he saw him close his eyes, he seemed to be thinking, and he seemed to take a nap to regain his strength. After waiting for a while, he did not continue talking. A yin wind hit for no reason, and the candle light jumped wildly, causing goosebumps to wrinkle on people's skin. Yunsu thought it was not good, struggled to get up, and reached out to probe Wang Mixuan's breath and neck. People are gone. In this way, on a night without dogs barking and wolves howling, the Suanmu sect, which had only existed for 17 years, disappeared. The founder of the sect, Wang Mixuan, left 5 children behind and left. Tuk tuk tuk, there was a knock on the door. Yunsu closed the mysterious sutra, and called in with a light cough. "Big brother Yun, are you feeling better?" The person who pushed the door in was an 11 or 12-year-old, wearing a small cotton-padded coat with a slanted front that exuded a faint scent of dry osmanthus. The cotton-padded coat was very clean, and the blue silk was no longer short. A rather delicate, slightly shy, well-washed, red face from the cold, a little girl's face with a hint of joy at the moment. In her hand, she held a fire raisin, which contained a few pieces of scarlet charcoal covered with hot ashes. She would come to replace the charcoal in the cupping pot several times a day for Yunsu. Yunsu couldn't help but secretly said that on Earth, such a little girl has only almost graduated from elementary school, but now she is temporarily preoccupied with the lives of 6 people. The little girl is naturally beautiful, and she doesn't know where the head of the king who died young picked it up. Big brother Yun. 12-year-old Wang Suanji looked at Big brother Yun, who seemed to be suffering from hysteria, leaned down, stretched out his small hand and shook it a few times before he drew Yunsu's attention back. She was holding a hot pancake in her little hands, and the aroma emanating from it, through the door, you could hear the sound of a few little guys lying on the crack of the door and swallowing saliva. The pancakes were brought back by Wang Mixuan desperately. All 12 pancakes were stained with his blood and soaked into the noodles. During the 5 days when he sometimes fell into a coma and sometimes woke up, the little girl told him the whole thing again. A few days before the heavy snow closed the mountain, several senior brothers made an appointment to go down the mountain to run errands, but they never returned. Until one day early in the morning, someone dropped a few things on the open space in front of the hall. After Wang Suanji heard the movement, he was lying in the window and saw that master was fighting with someone. Scarred and dead. She fainted from fright. When she woke up, both her master and the enemy were gone, so she had to simply bury the 6 senior brothers while crying. Heavy snow blocked the mountains for March, and master did not return in March. Wang Suanji finally waited for master to return, as well as big brother Yun picked up in the snow, and 12 pancakes. During these 5 days, Yunsu and 5 children survived on 12 pancakes. Suanji, how many pancakes are there? This is the last one. I'm not hungry. You boil it into a paste and give everyone a share. Yunsu broke off a small piece, leaving an almost complete cake and handed it to the little girl. The little girl took the pancake and broke off a small piece, and handed it back to him. Big brother Yun, I'll give you this piece of mine. I'm not hungry, I want to lose weight, you eat. Wang Suanji nodded. He had only heard about fertilization, so losing weight should mean the opposite. He carefully changed Yunsu's charcoal, and then went out to make a mess. Yunsu wrapped the Taoist robe. She was cold and hungry these few days. Fortunately, she baked the tufa warm baby and gained some strength. Looking at the sight of the early sunshine outside the window, she had a stupid idea. This place is located on the mountainside, and the way down the mountain has long been blocked by heavy snow. Even if the mountain road is not cut off, and the village is 10 miles away, he cannot leave rashly. The mountains are covered by heavy snow, not only people are hungry, but tigers, leopards and wolves are also hungry. Promise Wang Muxuan's matter, it's not time yet, how can I have to endure this period of time? From the side room, he found a deep-bottomed dustpan and a rope for drying cinnabar, and then went under the dead tree to touch a few rotten fruits that were inedible, rubbed them to rot, and shook out a bunch of seeds from it. A rag was placed on the snow, sprinkled with a large handful of fruit seeds, and the small piece of cake was crushed and carefully spread on top. A dustpan was set up, and hemp rope was put on it. After doing this, he stood up on the tree and sighed, "There are so many birds in the mountains, everyone, please join us." Behind the doors and windows, the little guys were looking at it with great interest, but they didn't understand what Big Brother Yun was going to do. Big Brother Yun is going to do a trick, so be quiet. Wang Suanji warned while boiling the water, and the 3 little brats who were watching the fun nodded hurriedly. When Yunsu returned to the house, holding the fire pot in one hand and the hemp rope in the other, he prayed to various gods many times, and prayed to the mysterious system in his mind, and waited for a cup of tea. A clumsy mountain bird, so arrogantly fell to the snow. The mountain bird was too arrogant, so he ignored defenses, ignored disasters, and walked into a simple trap ignoring death. With a swoosh, he was hit. One, another. It was snowing heavily and the birds were moving out. After Yunsu came to this world, for the first time, he showed a smirk like an old farmer who had a good harvest. "Suanji, I'll leave it to you." Yunsu pointed to more than a dozen mountain birds tied together with ropes, and even 2 very fat wild pheasants. "Tonight, you don't have to go hungry." Looking at these mountain birds that could save lives, Wang Suanji couldn't hold back his tears for a while. He pursed his little lips tightly, tears streaming down his cheeks. Although the Suanmu sect was established not long ago, Wang Muxuan was very skilled. Even if he was seriously injured and on the verge of death, he could still struggle to return to the mountain and save himself by the way. Yunsu didn't know anything about immortality or martial arts at this time, but when Wang Muxuan's strong infuriating energy poured into his body that night, the warm feeling was still fresh in his memory. Wang Suanji said that he was good at swordsmanship, and he was quite good at light work. Even the brothers who died violently once joined forces to exterminate a passing bandit. However, the rivers and lakes are sinister and unpredictable. The Suanmu sect, first the backbone of the army, was wiped out, and Wang Muxuan, who was happy and grudged, almost died with the enemy. In his opinion, there are many reasons for the tragedy of the Suanmu school. In the final analysis, it is still in this world where the strong eat the weak. The strength is too weak, let alone the ability to resist risks. No power to protect. It was a fluke that the Suanmu sect could save 5 little guys after so many vendettas in the rivers and lakes, killing people overnight. When the enemy attacked, the warehouse was destroyed, and the remaining food was finally exhausted after the 5 little guys had eaten for 3 months. The little silver left in the door could not buy anything before the heavy snow closed the mountain. People have good and bad luck. Although there are many coincidences in the tragedy of the Suanmu sect, the bottom line is that the world is too dangerous and the Suanmu sect is too weak. Yunso couldn't help but secretly thought, if he was still as lazy as he was on earth, then Zai might die very quickly. Even if he was a strange treasure, he would die countless times. In the side room, the smoke of the cooking smoke was already rising, and there was the sound of children playing and amusing. Yunsu stood under the big withered tree at the entrance of the Suanmu sect, with his hands behind his back, looking out at the vast snow field. In the past few days, in addition to having a magical system in his mind, his hair has grown so long that it has grown to his waist, and Suanji has tied him with a hemp rope. Thousands of mountains and twilight snow, the most peaceful. The world under the mountain was covered by white snow. Occasionally, the mountain wind blew up the snow particles and pulled out a whistling sound. The intense hunger came from his stomach, and Yunso couldn't help but murmured, "Although you are immortal, you will still be hungry." The stomach problem has been temporarily resolved, and the injury has basically recovered. Yunsu is still a complete mortal. A few days ago, he was sometimes in a coma and sometimes sober. He failed to enter the system many times. Later, when he was full, it was time to study the mystery in his body, the longevity cloud platform, the first to receive the grand prize of the white prostitute of immortality. The rest of my life is long, I must be worthy of this immortality. At nightfall, Yunsu drank a bowl of warm pheasant soup. Except for a little oil, a little and salt, nothing else was added. After eating a few pieces of meat, he felt that the meat quality was very good, the taste was delicious and the taste was not good. Firewood. Lying down on the bed contentedly, coming to this world, it was the first time I was full of soup. This is the East Room. The 5 children live in the most well-preserved hall, and the 2 more dilapidated West Rooms are the kitchen and storage room. A few months ago, the Suanmu sect, which Wang Mixuan had operated for 17 years, still had 1 main hall, 2 side halls, and 8 wing rooms. On that day, the enemy raided, swords, and there were only 4 dilapidated houses left. Brother Yun, I kept a live wild pheasant to eat tomorrow, and the rest have been killed and frozen in a jar with ice cubes as you said. Wang Suanji obediently changed Yunsu's clay cup for hot charcoal, and then stood there beautifully. She looked at this big brother Yun, who was just like herself except for the fact that his hair was growing fast. The whole person recovered most of his energy, and his face was also bloody, which seemed to be slightly whiter than the head and other senior brothers. The skin is slightly white, and the hands and feet are not rough. At first glance, he has never practiced martial arts or done much rough work. It's a pity that I lost my memory, and I don't know where he is, the son of a big family. He speaks politely, softly, and doesn't talk much, but he knows how to care for people, and he can read. For the past 2 days, she always had the same nightmare. When she woke up, she found that everyone starved to death and froze to death, leaving herself alone, dying in pain and helplessness in this desperate snow-covered mountain. This pheasant stew and the meat in the jar finally made her breathe a sigh of relief. It's great that everyone doesn't have to die. Don't worry about food, you take care of other people and teach them to read and write. Of the 5 children, the oldest is Wang Suanji, and the other 3 boys over 5 years old are called Wang Suanwen, a skinny boy, Wang Suanwu, a fat boy, and a shy boy named Wang Xianzang. The little girl who was still in the baby was called Wang Xuanyu. Wang Suanji does not know how to use martial arts. She said that when she was abandoned, she was poisoned by a strange poison. Later, the master forced her to perform exercises to detoxify her. The poison was slowly eliminated, but her body was very weak, especially the cold. In life, I have to wear 2 cotton-padded clothes, and I have to stay by the stove in the kitchen to make it through. Yunsu sighed secretly, including himself, who fell unconscious in a snowdrift. The people of the Suanmu faction are basically pitiful people. He was frozen to death, Wang Suanji was poisoned, and Wang Xianzang was abandoned by his family and abandoned by the roadside. Wang Suanwen and Wang Suanmu seemed to be in good health, but they were 2 brothers. He was rescued back to the mountain by Wang Mixuan. Look at Wang Mixuan, such a bad and good person, but he died young. He was a strong martial artist, but he was only 45 years old when he died. Is it true that good people don't live long? Yes, big brother Yun. Wang Suanji obediently exited, closing the door carefully. She looked a little down. If only she could practice martial arts, she would be able to do more things. Maybe the Suanmu faction doesn't need to be removed. She also knew the master's dying exhortation. She felt very at a loss. Where will everyone be separated after going down the mountain? This is her only home, a home where she grew up and has many fond memories and relatives. Yunsu naturally didn't know the thoughts of the 12-year-old mysterious girl. He discarded the distracting thoughts in his mind, sat cross-legged, and his consciousness sank into the depths of his mind, and there was a mysterious space. There is a quaint cloud platform there. The whole space does not seem to be large, and it seems to run through the entire nothingness and is endless. Behind Yuntai, there is a huge ancient tree looming in nothingness. The cloud platform is clearly visible. There are no leaves, no flowers, and no fruits on the ancient trees, only dead branches rippling slightly in the nothingness, and there is a faint sound of Taoism. When Yunsu thought about it, his consciousness turned into a little man and sat up. With a buzzing sound, there was a shudder in the void, and there were countless hazy voices coming from the big tree behind the void. The next moment, the whole person has been integrated with the cloud platform, and obtained a lot of information about the longevity cloud platform. Congratulations to the master, the treasure has fully recognized the master, and successfully started the journey of longevity. A voice that seemed real and phantom sounded. It seemed that someone was talking, and it seemed that there was a feeling in his heart, which was completely different from the game system he imagined. Yunsu only felt that a warm current came from the cloud platform under his feet, pouring into his body continuously, a number that kept jumping in his mind, 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, until it seemed that he couldn't even hold it in his mind, and finally displayed as infinity. The whole person was extremely comfortable, and a mysterious heat flow rushed to the whole body, and even every pore seemed to be breathing comfortably. Now that the injection of life essence is over, he has an infinite life expectancy. Yunsu was a little afraid in his heart. When he came to this world, he knew that he had obtained a great chance of immortality, but he was on the verge of death and could not enter the immortality space. If it wasn't for Wang Mixuan to save his life first and Wang Suanji to take care of him later, this little life would be in danger. He sorted out a lot of information about this amazing creation in his mind. Yunsu, immortal. To be precise, now is a mortal who will not truly die completely. If you die accidentally, in addition to experiencing the fear of death and great pain and other unknown horrors, you can choose to live on the longevity cloud platform and meet certain conditions. I accidentally turned into a monster for nothing, whether it is the same life as the world or the world, there is no answer. Yunsu smiled and was very happy. At this moment, the feeling was very good, and there was no anxiety at all. It was like a farmer who returned from farming and suddenly found that his family's grain was piled up into a mountain. A businessman who returned from business saw a hidden wealth that could rival the country. Of gold and silver, the scholar who hangs the vertebrae of the beam, wakes up and finds the title of the golden list. In the future, we must learn to accept the reality in a low-key manner, not to resist, and to live forever. Thinking about it, it's really a happy and beautiful thing. With such good conditions, it's a waste not to cultivate immortals properly. Yunsu calmed down and thought of more. Immortality was informed by the system when he first came to this world. Before that, he was worried that his immortality would be easily forcibly cut off by external forces. A kind of immortality is that you will never really die no matter what. Another kind of immortality is that as long as there are no accidents and no one is killed, one can live forever. These are two events, worlds apart. Well now, as long as you live long enough, you are still afraid that your qualifications will not be good enough, and you are in a hurry. If you have no conditions, create conditions. Let's go into retreat for 10,000 years. Yunsu had too many reasons why he wanted to cultivate. When I was on Earth before, I had a special liking for Sun Xianwen. On weekdays, I flipped through ancient books, read fairy tales and movies and TV dramas, and even played games on weekdays, like fairy tales and fantasy. It's not that Dukia likes dragons, Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com really yearns for that kind of unrestrained, fearless avenue of longevity. Now that life is long, if you don't learn anything, it will be too low for enjoying life. What's more, although the longevity is longer, it does not mean that it is safe every day. It would be terrifying if you were sealed in a corner by some pervert, hanging your life for you every day, even if you wanted to die. Of course, there is an even more terrifying thing, which is death. Although Yunsu is a powerless person, has a calm personality, and thinks that he is a good person. But since I was a child, I was afraid of pain. A mosquito bite is fine, but if a knife slashes the neck, thousands of arrows pierce the heart, and the sky falls to death, the corpse is divided by 5 horses, the waist is cut and the skin is peeled, the pot is burnt, and the fried barbecue is terrifying. If you don't practice and live long enough, the chances of encountering those perverted ways of dying are extremely high. The Suan Mu sect in front of him was almost dead, and the pain of the severed head made him feel a chill lingering in his neck. After making up his mind to practice hard, Yunsu began to study the usage of the longevity gimbal. After gaining immortality, this mysterious treasure, the Immortality cloud platform itself, has not much information, and no one has spoken. It is just that there are obscure information, so naturally I understand something. Among the few pieces of information, the most important point is about the longevity cloud platform. As long as you can obtain a strange thing called the immortal token of longevity, you can sit on the cloud platform, travel around Taixu, and obtain some kind of adventure. In addition, meditating on the cloud platform with the body of consciousness, demons and outsiders cannot invade, and the effect of visualization training is very good. The Qing Mongolian tree hidden in the void behind him seemed to be dead at this time, and it seemed to have some secrets. Nothing else matters, we can only find out slowly. The next day, the weather was worse than yesterday. The sky was cloudy again, and the air was filled with a bone-chilling cold. There was no sun in the sky, and a heavy snow seemed to be brewing again. All kinds of things from last night are vivid in my mind. The immortal Shao Yuan, the cloud platform of immortality in the mysterious mind, the towering dead tree hidden in nothingness, and the more ethereal immortal decree of immortality, the adventure of wandering around too much. The amount of information was a bit large, and after a while, he regained his senses. Yunsu took out the bronze mirror that Wang Suanji had found from under the pillow, and looked at himself carefully. Her appearance basically remained the same, her hair was very long, but luckily it stopped growing wildly around her waist. What is unclear is the temperament, the most special is the eyes, if the pupils were unobstructed before, but now they are like a deep pool, faint, but fortunately, the eyesight is not obstructed. Yunsu felt that herself in the mirror had changed a little bit, she seemed to have a little bit of slack, relaxed and at ease, like a Zhuge who didn't worry about food and clothing. Heaven, earth, people, sun, moon, and stars. Lang Lang's reading sound came from the hall. He was reading a book of enlightenment. It was simple and direct without rhyme, but it was easy to read, but it was inferior to the famous three-character classic that had been passed down for thousands of years on Earth. Wang Xuanji's voice was deliberately kept low, trying to correct the three children, and from time to time he had to coax the youngest in the cradle. In the air, a faint smell of broth filled the air, making people feel very at ease. Yunsu is not good at teaching his children to read, cooking, and taking care of children. There are more important things. Reading 100 times, the meaning is lost. Yunsu sat cross-legged, with the Tong Xuanjing that he had read several times on his knees, and felt a little bit touched. The Suanmu sect before bankruptcy was just an ordinary martial arts faction that could no longer be ordinary. He had read through the few martial arts secrets, unless it was a treasure of heaven and earth, a high-ranking person empowered him, or he could get through Rendu Er. Pulse. Otherwise, an otaku who has never even practiced squatting and horse stances, nor has he tied his legs, would have a hard time practicing martial arts if he didn't spend endless years. And compared with the way of immortal cultivation, the temptation is still much smaller. What makes people a little surprised is that this Tong Xuanjing, the little girl said that it was always in the door, the master and all the brothers have read it, and some people practiced according to it, and finally gave up. Wang Xuanji once imitated Wang Mixuan's tone and said, "There is no one in the world who can enter the immortal way according to this method, but you can read one or two as a miscellaneous book." But when Yunsu came to this world, he knew that he had the qualification to live forever, and also got the information that this world is a huge and almost boundless world of immortal cultivation. Keep watching. To put it simply, this Tong Xuanjing can be described in one sentence. Self-cultivation, self-cultivation, long-term openness. The whole book is divided into 3 chapters, the first one is about self-cultivation, the second one is about qi, and the third one is about penetrating mysteries. The chapter on self-cultivation begins with daily life, food, and clothing, and from infancy to old age. The whole article is written on the essence of self-cultivation. For example, in terms of work and rest, the requirement in the book is to get up at the sunrise and go out to eat outside to get some breath. This sunrise was about 5 hours earlier than the time when Yunsu stayed in bed on Earth. And it must be done every day, without interruption. In the same way, it is too early to eat dinner before sunset. It's fine if it's just time critical, even the style of pajamas, sleeping posture, bed orientation, interior furnishings, and so on. The requirements for food and clothing are not too difficult. Eat hundreds of grains, taste thousands of herbs, drink water without roots, be eaten by heaven and earth, and even have regulations on when and how much to eat. What time to eat, what to eat for 3 meals, all have requirements. The whole scripture is a bit pedantic, extremely harsh, and the words are harsh. It seems that it violates any one of the articles, so there is no need to continue to study the chapter on Wangqi. The chapter on looking for qi is mainly about qi. It is also very clear in the article that the first article of self-cultivation is to adjust one's body to the best state. Over time, through 10 or even decades of perseverance, the whole person can reach the best state of hope. The second chapter, looking at qi, begins to guide people to understand the internal and external qi, and try to introduce qi into the body, from young to old, from seasons to seasons, from east, west, north and south, from mountains and rivers to rivers. Have talked about. The third chapter, Tong Xuan, is to teach people to break their own shackles, to lead qi into the body, to break the entrance of heaven and earth, and finally to lead qi into the body and become a monk. This part has the most content, and most of them are difficult to understand, such as the method of luck. As for the several superficial techniques recorded in it, it is like a book from heaven. The first 2 articles are easy to understand, and the third article, Tong Xuan, is in the fog. I don't know if the author himself has a lot of things he doesn't understand, or if Yunsu didn't meet the requirements of the first 2 articles. After reciting, the sun was setting, and I just drank some pheasant soup and stopped after eating a few pieces of meat. The food was still not too much. Several of the children were already skinny, and Wang Suanji was even more pale and hungry. A few and a half old children can easily eat poor Yunsu. Before they get enough food, they can only suffer for themselves. Cultivation is really very difficult. After reading the Tong Xuan Jing in the past few days, Yunsu asked himself to clear his mind and few desires, cut off all kinds of delusions, and lost his color when he saw the sky, but he still did not feel the spiritual energy between heaven and earth, nor did he seize any opportunity to enter the Dao. I don't know if it's a matter of aptitude or a matter of penetrating the mysterious scriptures. The full text is only 10,000 words of the Tong Xuan Jing, and I can almost recite it, but I am still confused. Yunsu has read it over the past few days, and still has a certain confidence in Tong Xuan Jing. It is based on the daily life of ordinary people and follows the steps step by step. Although the process is harsh, it is easy to understand, and many places are not unreasonable. Since this is the world of practice, there should be no shortage of spiritual qi. If you want to introduce qi into the body, although it is not something that can be achieved by 10 months of work, after accumulating over time, after adjusting the physical body and consciousness to a special state, it is possible to introduce qi into the body. In today's embarrassment, there is no teacher's teaching, no monk's guidance, and no way of knowing what aptitude is. Although the Tong Xuan Jing is extremely ordinary and extremely simple, it may be an entry-level Taoist book for those who have extremely poor aptitude and a strong desire to the Tao, who are quite self-disciplined in food, clothing, housing, life, and daily life, but who yearn for cultivation. Prepare with both hands. Yunsu secretly made up his mind, while relying on the Tong Xuan Sutra in his hand to try to cultivate, while exploring more secrets of the longevity cloud platform. It was getting dark, so he added 2 more bars to the main entrance of the main hall. Night is the most dangerous. There is a cellar under the statue of the in the main hall. It was the backhand of Wang Mixuan in the past. At night, Wang Suanji took the little guys to hide there. After Yunsu checked the doors and windows and turned off the lights in the hall, he continued to go back to the room and read at night. Barren hills, leaking houses, snowy fields cover the sky. The night was surprisingly quiet, the oil lamp had been lit, the wick wrapped in cotton was soaked in oil, and the bean-sized fire lit up the room. Tug! Tug tug! There was a gentle knock on the door, the sound was not loud, as if it was in the heart. Yunsu looked up with difficulty, and he was still in the room. Tuk tuk tuk, the knock on the door rang again. Yunsu looked outside through the gap in the window, it was pitch black, and there was no starlight at all. At this point, when the mountains were covered by heavy snow, who would knock on the door in the middle of the night? He vaguely felt that something was wrong. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Tuk tuk tuk, the knock on the door rang for the 3rd time, and Yunsu decided to take a look. He walked to the door of the main hall in a daze, glanced at him in confusion, and felt that the whole person seemed to be a little more awake, and his heart was a little more vigilant. On weekdays, I also asked Wang Suanji why Wang Mixuan, as a person in the Jianghu, offered a statue of a god. Only then did he know that Wang Mixuan was a wandering Taoist in his early years, and the Suanmu sect occasionally received some religious services in the dojo. Yunsu didn't open the door rashly, but through a crack in the door, she saw a woman in white standing pretty in the courtyard outside. Thinking about it a few more times, it seems that I can't really see it. At this time, the scene is quite strange. What's even more strange is that she didn't even approach the door of the main hall, but the knock on the door rang again. Yunsu's unease became stronger and stronger. Master, the little girl accidentally lost her family and lost her direction. I also asked the master to show mercy and open the door. Yunsu felt very frightened, his mouth was dry, and there was a chill in his feet. In the past 20 years, he has not even dared to watch midnight ghost movies alone. This kind of fear is real, and it has nothing to do with immortality, whether there is infinite lifespan that can be squandered. Yunsu said without hesitation, my son is not here, come back next time. Young master, what do you mean by this? A weak woman from the slave family. Roll. It was said that the person in the dream didn't know it. Yunsu was in a daze, still couldn't sleep, but his body curled up slightly, and he became cold under the 2 layers of quilt. In the courtyard outside the house, a woman in white appeared, and a yin wind blew for no reason, blowing snow particles, and the doors and windows vibrated. The girl in white was a little annoyed. With the wind blowing, the flesh and blood on her face slowly rotted away, and the means of entering the dream didn't work. I was thinking of a romantic night, reading with you in the middle of the night, but I was so confused. Damn, it's like that Wang Mixuan, stinky and hard. I saw that she floated out of Yunsu's window, a gust of gloomy wind blew, and she entered the house. The woman leaned down and looked at the man lying on the bed, with a painful face in his sleep, who was shivering with cold. He secretly said that he was a lot fairer and more handsome than that Wang Mixuan. Wang Mixuan, the revenge of the sword will be avenged tonight. I saw her leaning down, her whole body sticking to Yunsu's body, her head wiggling, sniffing everywhere, indulging in the charming yang qi. At midnight, if anyone sees it, they will exclaim that a ghost has pressed the bed. Yunsu's brows were slightly wrinkled, and he felt more and more uncomfortable. Not only was it cold, but there was also a sense of suffocation. It became more and more difficult to breathe, and his whole body trembled involuntarily. But he couldn't open his eyes, as if there was a big mountain on his body. He couldn't escape. He wanted to cry out for help but couldn't make a sound. The rotten-faced female ghost stretched out her scarlet ghost tongue, smelled enough of the yang qi, and then slowly licked Yunsu's slender cheeks, and then took a sharp breath, only to see a visible glow from Yunsu. It was sucked out of the mouth and entered the belly of the female ghost. Tisk tisk, there is plenty of yang energy, and the young brother has a lot of yang life. The female ghost smoked for a while, but it didn't seem to be enough. A vicious look flashed on her face, and she suddenly had a plan. A pair of ghost hands grabbed Yunsu's shoulder and pinched it hard. Yunsu woke up in pain. Yunsu struggled many times in the dream. When a sharp pain came, he finally woke up. Before opening his eyes, he felt so cold. He intuitively thought that he kicked the quilt in his sleep. He was so frightened that he almost ran halfway. Ah! Ghost! Yunsu opened her eyes and saw a rotten-faced woman lying on top of her. The nails of her hands clasped her shoulders tightly, and the cold and foul stench came out, as if being pressed by a big lump of ice. Is this the female ghost? What time to go to bed? The female ghost's head shook unceasingly. Following the movement of her head, a ray of light visible to the naked eye was so intoxicating that she was forcibly pulled away from her body. That feeling, he once had, was like something precious had flowed out of his body. Yunsu had seen many stories of ghosts sucking people's yang qi and swallowing people's yang longevity when he was on Earth, but he never thought that he would encounter the real thing today. He struggled desperately, but he couldn't get out of his body. Instead, the irritating female ghost laughed wickedly. Young master, if you don't open the door, the slaves will come in too. Darling, don't make a noise. I woke you up, not to make you noisy, but to enjoy being sucked up by me and dying slowly. That feeling. It's up to you to pay back Wang Mixuan's original sword revenge. A cloud of yin wafted from the female ghost and fell on Yunsu. Immediately, she couldn't move or speak. At this time, Yunsu was afraid of not being able to, and secretly said that he was unlucky. He had just obtained the life essence of immortality, and in a blink of an eye, a female ghost who sucked people's longevity came. You won't be so scary if you wait for me to start practicing. I am here. She is just an immortal mortal, how can he withstand the pressure of an evil ghost like you? If it wasn't for the rotten-faced female ghost saying that she had a grudge against Wang Mixuan, Yunsu might have wondered if she had become a Tang monk and let her smell it. The strange thing is that although the female ghost has been absorbing yang shao and the glow is constantly being stripped from his body, there is no particularly painful feeling on his body, more is scared to death, and the rest is disgusting. Young master, you have so much life expectancy, the slave family can't take it anymore. The female ghost's flamboyant smiles, the rotten flesh on her face, and the blood flowed. Although these are half-truths and hallucinations, the horror is real. Her mouth opened a little wider, and the speed at which she absorbed the rays of light was much faster. The female ghost was pleasantly surprised to find that the evil ghost exercises, which had not progressed after cultivating for many years, were now running 100 times and 1,000 times faster than usual. The ghost body of nothingness is rapidly consolidating, and a steady stream of life essence comes in, greedily running the evil ghost exercises to transform, but with a single stick of incense, the entire ghost body is almost transformed into reality, and the Taoist practice is also constantly improving. Hehe, I still want, let me breathe a little more, ooh, it's so comfortable. After tonight, what can the city god of Yang do to me? I should become enlightened tonight. The female ghost began to talk to herself constantly, and the hands that had held Yunsu were also pulled away, dancing in the air as if she was drunk. Yunsu's feeling became strange, and he slowly calmed down. This terrifying ghost press seemed to have changed a bit. The female ghost on her body was getting heavier and heavier, but the yin qi that was suppressed disappeared. The female ghost danced around in a disorderly manner. For a while, there were many ghosts, and her mouth continued to absorb yang shao. Gradually, the ugly female ghost on her body seemed to be sucking a little too much. Time passed slowly, and at the back, the female ghost couldn't even utter a single sentence, she just danced and murmured in her mouth, madly absorbing yang shao, and then relying on the evil spirit exercises in her body to run, refining the body of the evil spirit. Yunsu secretly said, this female ghost is having a lot of fun, she really too much. GG, there have been 900 years of Taoism. The female ghost sometimes murmurs, and sometimes goes crazy. The power emanating from the whole ghost body is getting stronger and stronger. She seems to have seen herself standing on the rammed earth again, no longer needing to hide in the woods and the mountains, no need to hide in the filth. Those who used to oppose her, whether it is Wang Mixuan and other vigorous martial arts practitioners, or that Yuyang County's landlord, city god, and those abominable emissaries, once they possess the evil spirits of the 1,000 years, they will all die. The sky has eyes, it is fair indeed, he finally killed so many people secretly, endured humiliation and practiced the evil spirit technique, and escaped the pursuit of countless evil agents. This unfortunate young man may have excellent aptitude or a magical bloodline. It is a great blessing to meet him today. The female ghost has been murmuring intermittently, what 1,000 years of Taoism, what chance of enlightenment, talking to herself, sometimes high-pitched, sometimes angry, sometimes crying, sometimes madly laughing. Yunsu had read it in ancient books before, and some ghosts also know how to cultivate and practice the Tao. They finally got immortality. Is it really going to be cheap tonight for this filthy female ghost and help her cultivate the Taoism for thousands of years? Grow it up, plant it up. In a daze, the female ghost was rejoicing in her heart, as if she had discovered a big secret. A good young man who can't yang shao no matter what, plant him, a little bit every day, and practice while sucking. Thousands of years of Taoism are just around the corner. Yunsu is naturally afraid of death, fear of pain, fear of being abused, and even more worried about being locked up by perverted people. She has already made up her mind to cultivate, but now she has not had time to cultivate. Big loss. It is completely at the expense of oneself and others, and he vomits blood. Blessed by heaven and earth, after this calamity, you must cultivate well in the future. Yunsu cursed and swore, and then waited for the female ghost to continue sucking yang shao. Anyway, it didn't hurt, and she couldn't do anything. There was nothing to say about enjoyment, so she accepted it silently. After a long time, it doesn't seem to be so disgusting. As the ghost body solidifies, the ghostly illusion on this female ghost's face is gone. At first glance, it is not much different from ordinary women, but it is fierce, sinister, and ghostly. They were almost unable to open or speak, an invisible pressure getting stronger and stronger. It seems that the body pressing on him is no longer a ghost, but a gloomy mountain, a real mountain. The oil lamp had been completely blown out by the overcast wind when the female ghost went mad just now, but the female ghost radiated countless rays of light, illuminating the bright interior of the house, scurrying around in the ghost's body, extremely restless. Yunsu has already thought of the way to save herself, which is to let this female ghost more. Judging from this posture, it is very likely that she will either go crazy with her sucking or become a lunatic. It's not just that the medicine is 3-point poisonous, but eating too much of anything can actually lead to miserable results. I don't know how long it took, the glow in the female ghost's body became more and more chaotic, and she couldn't control her madness. She only heard a bang, as if something exploded. Female ghost suddenly screamed. She struggled violently, and the whole house was devastated, the tables and chairs shattered like paper, and the roof and doors and windows were blown away. Ah! Who are you? I have sucked tens of thousands of years of your life, why are you still not dead? Ah, ah! The glow in the female ghost's body has already gotten out of control. The 1,000-year-old Dao, seeing that she had been refining frantically just now and forcibly transformed it at the risk of going crazy, has long since become a mess. I saw the female ghost's face twitched violently, twisted and torn, and the ghost body began to fester, turning into strands of pure ghost energy, shining with luster. Gradually, only the outline of the whole face was rotten, and the female ghost had no time to curse, and finally came a voice with infinite reluctance. Return my 1,000-year Taoism. As soon as the voice fell, the female ghost dissipated, and the entire ghost body turned into a mass of pure energy. It was visible to the naked eye. Yunsu was oppressed by this pure energy and could not move. He only felt a huge suction coming from his abdomen. It was like a bottle that was squeezed out of too much water and suddenly began to flow back. Yunsu didn't know what that pure aura was, but it poured out instantly, and with a humming sound, an unprecedented severe pain came, and then passed out. Yunsu never dreamed that a mortal would be attacked by evil ghosts at night, escaped without doing anything, and finally swallowed his 1,000-year-old Taoism in turn. It was really a thrilling adventure. When he woke up, his whole body was buried under the ruins of the east wing. The whole house collapsed. Several huge beams fell down, and together with other blue bricks and planks, Yunsu was pressed down. Who drink? Wang Xuanji was working hard to lift the roof beam above, but he didn't have enough strength. Big brother Yun, big brother Yun. Wake up, are you all right? The brothers Wang Xuanwen and Wang Xuanyu were helping her, but it was useless. A stream of warm water was dripping into his mouth. It was Wang Xian who was feeding Yunsu water with a spoon through the gap, fearing that he would be thirsty underneath. Cough, cough, you give in, I'll get up first. Yunsu only felt that there was endless energy in her body at this time. Her body moved a little under the rubble and beams, and then it squeezed and rattled. Big brother Yun, are you awake? Wang Xuanji rushed forward and saw Yunsu opened his eyes through the beams and wooden planks. He was very surprised, and he hurriedly greeted a few little guys to get out of the way. Yunsu saw that there were still tears on her cheeks. This little girl was soft-hearted. I asked them to move out of the way first, and then I moved a little bit, and pushed up the beam and a pile of collapsed debris that were on my body. I only heard a screeching noise, and the beam was pushed up by him, and the man stood up. When did you get so powerful? It's unbelievable. Yunsu originally felt that there was a powerful force in his body, but he couldn't control it very well, so he got up cautiously. He didn't expect several beams weighing hundreds of kilograms to be pushed up as if there was nothing. When several children saw that Big Brother Yun escaped danger, it was too late to be happy, and they didn't think too much about it. Recalling that she was pressed on the bed by a female ghost last night to steal her birthday, Yunsu still had lingering fears and thought for a moment. Could it be the cycle of cause and effect, that she has acquired the female ghost's Taoism? Feeling that power, it seemed extremely unstable, but there was a slight change, and it was suppressed by a certain power in my body. That power seemed to be Yang Shao, the endless Yang Shao, restraining the power from the female ghost. Yunso clearly remembered that the female ghost sucked too much, and eventually even the ghost body died out, and a pure breath entered her belly. One yin and one yang are just restraint. I'm fine, I need to rest. Don't worry, go and continue reading. Yunsu sent the little guys out, and Wang Suanji didn't ask any more questions. While the teachers and brothers were reading, they boiled hot water and added a few slices of lotion to ward off cold and dampness. After Yunsu finished taking a shower, he found that Wang Suanji had prepared a set of clothes, half new and half old, which had been resized and fit perfectly. The east wing completely collapsed, so Wang Suanji cleaned up the storage room in the west room. There was a rotten hole in the roof, and she also crept up and covered it with a piece of wood. There was originally a bed inside, which was replaced by the brothers in the past, and she also changed into a clean bedding. Just now, Wang Suanji said with lingering fears about what happened before, and Yunsu knew that he had been lying under the ruins all day. Yunsu took a look at the incident of the female ghost last night, and when she recalled it, she was still terrified. The tens of thousands of years of longevity was like fishing, in exchange for the female ghost's 1,000-year-old ghosts. I don't know if there is any difference between the way of this monster and the way of a cultivator. Yunsu's heart suddenly moved, and he dug out from under the pillow the book of profound understanding that Wang Suanji had pulled out of the ruins, skipping the first 2 chapters and reading the chapter on profound access. The content that was originally bitter and incomprehensible turned into a certain melody as you read it, driving the powerful and unparalleled pure energy in the body to flow around, getting faster and faster. As it turns out, this Xian chapter is really not nonsense. Although there seem to be some problems in some places, it is still a true method that can guide people to draw qi into the body. At this time, Yunsu has been in charge of the Tao of Ghosts for thousands of years, and when he reads this chapter on Xian again, it is almost by analogy, and he understands it in an instant. Sitting cross-legged, closing his eyes and meditating, he read hundreds of times on weekdays, as if the texts were agile, and finally turned into a wonderful law, slowly mobilizing the huge pure energy in his body, but with a stick of incense, it works fine. Every time it runs, every part of the whole body is washed by the essence, and at the same time, a wonderful perception emerges from it, mysterious, not the perception of heaven and earth, but a kind of body, qi, and self, a sense of power. Drink. After dozens of operations, this pure energy finally melted into the body and disappeared. Yunsu felt that the whole person was getting lighter and lighter. He had only run the profound opening chapter dozens of times. With the help of that pure energy, it was as if a huge lake had been dug out of his body. He closed his eyes slightly and could see there is a huge open space at the Danshan location. Boom! There was a thunderclap on the ground, and a thunderclap sounded in the Danshan. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth that could not be felt on weekdays became very clear. Yunsu was extremely hungry and thirsty, becoming more and more unbearable, and finally opened his mouth to the sky and took a sharp breath. Rumbling above the sky, in all directions, countless spiritual energies are pouring down like the Tianhe River. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com formed a waterfall that hangs down from the sky, fell hidden, swallowed the spirit river, and finally all entered Yunsu's mouth. The aura enters the belly, just like the pure energy that was refining and running just now, the rules are manifested, and the massive amount of spiritual energy that entered the body will be rolled into one roll, and it will run obediently. It became more and more solid, and the condensed gas turned into liquid, and finally slowly turned into a trickle, which was classified into the empty lake in Danshan. Gradually, more and more spiritual energy poured in, from all directions. Limbs and bones were pouring in, the trickles converged into a river, and finally converged into a lake at the Danshan location. The lake became bigger and bigger, like the sea. With Yunsu's cultivation, the mountain where the Suanmu sect is located seems to be shaking. A sea of clouds covering a radius of dozens of miles, continuously attracting a large amount of spiritual energy from higher and wider directions, but it turned into a waterfall and fell from the sky, and the spiritual river flew down and plummeted into Yunsu's body. The mountains are throbbing, and this world seems to be brewing a bigger battle. Countless birds and beasts were frightened and fled. Jackals, tigers, leopards, sheep, deer, pigs, and horses were in the company. Occasionally, one or two spirits with a little bit of energy also used a stick to pick up a baggage, which contained all their belongings, and escaped 100 times. And ran away overnight. While Wang Suanji was cooking the chicken soup, he kept an eye on Big Brother Yun's movements. An ordinary person was fine after being crushed under the ruins for a day. He was a little worried that it would be better not to leave any dark wounds, and his health was only slightly better for 2 days. Ordinary people can't see this vision. Wang Suanji just felt that it wasn't that cold tonight. He didn't even notice the cold illness that tortured her all night on weekdays. Her whole body was warm and very comfortable. Such visions of heaven and earth cannot be seen by mortals, but the wise ones have already discovered them. Yuyang County, west of the city. At the time of Su, the temple of the city god was deserted and no one was there, only the snoring of the temple congratulations sounded. In the city god's yamen, the statue of the city god sitting high on the head, and the clay statues of civil and military judges and 3 chief officials on both sides below, all rose up with a spiritual light. 6 officials dressed in brocade robes came down to the ground. They were quite majestic, but their appearance was the same as that of the god. The first person is dressed in a cyan official uniform with a round neck and large sleeves, a leather belt at the waist, a head, and a pair of black boots with soap horns. Stepping out, standing in front of the temple and looking at Yaishan mountain in the distance, I saw a sea of spirits rolling for dozens of miles in midair, like a river pouring down, with an extremely astonishing momentum. What do you think about this vision of heaven and earth? The headed person asked in a loud voice, frowning slightly. A few people exchanged a few words in a low voice, and an officer in grey said, "My lord, this vision of heaven and earth is too amazing. I have never heard of it, and I have never seen it before, but it is peaceful, and it does not look like an evil spirit. Yaishan is also in the territory of Yuyang. I have to go and see it. Go and ask the land master." Wu Ding led the order to escape into the ground. After a while, the air in front of the city god temple surged, and a puff of blue smoke appeared. Wu Ding and an old man with a cane appeared. "Zhao Chenghuang is polite, so I know what happened above that Yaishan mountain. Zhang Tudigong is polite. I was just woken up and I don't know the situation, but Lao Zhang Tudigong came with me. Go with yourself." Zhao Chenghuang, the leader, waved his robe sleeves, activating the divine power of incense fire, and he had already appeared above Yaishan with everyone in the next moment. He was still 2 or 3 miles away from the place where the Linghe River poured down. Even if they were 2 or 3 miles away, the group of people no longer dared to go forward. They only felt that the spiritual energy of the heavens and the earth was like a flood of beasts, and the momentum was terrifying. "Su Juing, where is this place?" "Huicheng God, Lord Tudi, this place is where the Suanmu sect is located. The head of the sect, Wang Mu, has outstanding martial arts skills, is loyal and kind, and is a man of good deeds. He hates evil and hates evil." The messenger was brought into the local Yin division, but he refused to stay as a messenger, and has already left the county's gate of and disappeared. A judge with a Yin book and a spirit pen in his hand responded immediately. "Oh? It's a pity." Zhao Chenghuang pondered for a while, and said, this old man has only been a Yuyang city god for 100 years, but Duke Zhang Tudi has been in charge of the land for nearly 200 years. I don't know what he thinks of the vision in front of him. Zhao Chenghuang, seeing this spirit river pouring backwards, the sky and the earth change color, could it be that there are immortals in the mysterious wood sect who are cultivating? Zhang Tudi looked at Zhao Chenghuang with a solemn expression. Fairy? This word is too far away for those present, even Zhao Chenghuang has never seen it. Has Lord Earth ever seen an immortal and cultivate like this? That Zhang Tudi just shook his head and said, I'm equivalent to a county in the county, and there is no paradise in the territory. Where can I see those immortals? Even the people in the immortal sect are rare. It's just speculation. Everyone saw that the Linghe River was still pouring down that day, and it was extremely fierce. It was obviously aura, but it slammed into the momentum of the big river. The momentum was huge, but it did not damage the geomantic atmosphere of Yaishan, nor did it damage the buildings of the Suanmu school. Even the sound of reading a book could be vaguely heard, and smoke from the roof of the house was rising, so we discussed it and simply did not move. Not too close, just waiting. Although most of the city gods and the land are virtuous people, the foundation of their practice is also the incense of the people in one place, and the sacrifices of thousands of families. But he's not a fool. If the vision in front of him is a good thing, it's fine. If it's a bad thing, rushing up would be a death sentence. In such a situation, there is no demonic spirit, so everyone feels a little more at ease. Now that you are farther away, there is really something unusual. The city god uses the magic of incense and fire, and the land communicates with the mountains and rivers, so he can escape quickly. Just 3 hours have passed, it is already the early morning, and it will be dawn in another hour. Hu Yunsu slowly opened his eyes, unable to hold back the breath in his mouth, and spewed out, only to see light in the dark room, like daytime. Just now, when the Linghe River was poured back, the Danshan became a sea. It was very smooth at the beginning. With the help of the Xiantong Sutra, Yunsu had already finished refining the pure qi in his body, and then he introduced the qi into the body, refining it into a liquid, and entering the sea of Danshan. There was more and more water in the sea of Danshan, and when it was about to fill up, a huge whale-swallowing force came from my mind. At that moment, the sea of Danshan, which Yunsu could communicate with a little bit, lost control in an instant, swish. In a flash, it rushed into my mind and entered the mysterious place where the longevity cloud platform is located. The mysterious space that was originally empty and vast suddenly became a vast ocean, and Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com then continued to absorb more majestic spiritual energy into the body. The Linghe River in the sky poured backwards, and nothing was wasted on the ground. All of it entered Yunsu's body, and after a little twist, he was sucked into the longevity space and turned into the water of the spiritual sea. This time, the speed of absorption and the amount of spiritual energy far exceeded the scale of the Danshan spirit sea just now. For a long time, when Yunsu's consciousness sank into the sea of spirits unintentionally, she felt a strange itch coming, and she wanted to reach out and scratch it, only to realize that it was in her mind. The next moment, with a puff, the group of consciousness that entered the spirit sea suddenly transformed into a human shape, shot out of the spirit sea, and landed on the longevity cloud platform. The Ling River poured backwards, and the Danshan became a sea. In a flash, it was sucked into the sea of consciousness, becoming a vast ocean under the cloud platform of longevity, and a mysterious villain was transformed. Yunsu focused slightly, and his consciousness merged into the villain. Compared with the previous time when his consciousness turned into an illusory villain and sat on the cloud platform, this time the feeling was more real. It felt like a real person sitting on it with his eyes closed. This sea of consciousness is 10%, and the mysterious villain is sitting on the cloud platform. Yunsu feels the unprecedented majestic power. Tong Xuanjing says that the Danshan is the place to store mana. At this time, it is empty. Rippled, there is a feeling of boundless mana in every gesture, Phew! Yunso let out a sigh of relief, and saw light in the dark room. This energy rushed to the front gable of the house in front of him. The area of several feet on the wall instantly seemed to be annihilated. The night breeze came, and more blue bricks turned into sand. Powder, an entire wall is almost gone. At this point, almost only one room in the main hall of the bankrupt Suanmu sect remained intact. Yunsu remembered the last sentence of Tongxian chapter. Refining qi and transforming into a is the realm of immortals. Yunsu took the mysterious sutra in his hands and thought carefully about the phrase refining qi and transforming into a god, the realm of immortals. There is no teacher's inheritance, no sect, and cultivation is to move forward in the fog, and many things are covered by clouds and fog. This strange and thrilling immortal predestined relationship was ahead, and I never thought that relying on the female ghost's 1,000-year-old Taoism, she had risen from a mere mortal to the current mysterious realm. There are a lot of descriptions in the Tongxian Sutra about the introduction of qi into the body. When the realm of the talent has risen rapidly, whether it is the perception of the realm, or the characteristics of strength, or the fluctuation of mana, it is consistent with the description of the qi introduction period. Until the step of knowing the sea and the ocean and concentrating on the villain, Yunsu knew that there was a high probability that he had stepped into the only one sentence recorded in the Tongxian Jing, which is called the realm of immortal transformation. There is inexhaustible power in his gestures. Yunsu tried to control it, and just blew the blue brick gable in one breath. If you don't pay attention, it is very likely that the Suanmu sect will not survive tonight. He tried to pour a bit of mana into his right foot, which produced a feeling that it could be ejected at any time. With a slight force, the ground sank into sand. There are not many spells in the Xiantong Sutra, and even the use of mana is very few. According to one of the methods mentioned above, Yunsu circulates the mana throughout his body, looks up at the roof, and climbs the beam with a slight stroke. The whole process was light and silent, lighter than the light work in perception, and a little clumsy than the imaginary flight of immortals. Then, Yunsu turned his mana again, condensing it in his eyes, and a surge came. Suddenly, he seemed to be looking through the tiled roof of the house, and he could vaguely see 2 or 3 miles away, and there were a few clumps of energy. These groups of qi were different from those in the main hall. They were not popular. Yunsu took a sniff and could smell the scent of incense and money candles. Yunsu fell to the ground, and looked at the top of his head with emotion. After he stopped absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, the ocean-like spiritual energy in the air still hung down a lot and poured into the house. To enter the Dao today, if you can share some of the water, soil, and life here, you will be very happy. Yunsu was in a very good mood at this time. Looking at the vast ocean of spiritual energy gathered in the air at this time, he only felt that there was a feeling of unity between heaven and man. For several hours, the spiritual energy cloud sea in the air above his head was connected, and there was something that could be touched and dominated at any time. I felt that it was a pity to dissipate this, so I said softly to myself. Unexpectedly, just as the words fell, it was very coincidental that an unexplained wind rose from the ground and blew towards the ocean of spiritual energy in the midair. The wind was so strong that the entire ocean of spiritual energy surged violently. Boom! There was a thunderstorm in the night sky, followed by continuous lightning and thunder. The wind picked up, the clouds moved, the lightning flashed, and in just a moment, a torrential rain fell. In the beginning, it was above Yaishan Mountain. Slowly, it began to rain in Yuyang County, and the wind blew the clouds away. After half an hour, it started to rain lightly in most of Yangming Mansion. 2 or 3 miles away, Zhao Chenghuang and Zhang Tudi and other gods were dumbfounded as they watched the rain of spirit fall from the sky. The two of them lifted up a pair of incense fire eyes almost at the same time and looked around. A pouring rain of spirit, washing thousands of households, eliminating evil and disasters. In the eyes of Zhao Chenghuang, Yuyang City was eliminated in this rare deep winter heavy rain. A trace of evil and black energy was eliminated like splashing water to put out the fire. Duke Tudijong also stroked his beard and said with a smile, the 100 mile radius of the earth is moistened by the rain, the old are connected to the mountains and rivers, and all the birds and beasts benefit. As soon as this spiritual rain comes, the coming year will definitely be a year of great abundance. The people of Yuyang, are blessed this time. Ha ha ha, as the saying goes, the rain and the dew are all wet. Except for the people of Yuyang, the place in this county has become different. With time, maybe my Yuyang is even more outstanding. The civil and military judges and others also sighed with emotion. What Zhao Chenghuang cares most about is the people of a county, and Zhang Tudi pays more attention to this sudden spiritual rain, which nourishes the earth's veins, nourishes the mountains and rivers, and may leave Yuyang County with many seeds of outstanding people, even the land. Qi has become more flexible and more abundant. Both of them are priests who follow incense and fire, so they are naturally happy to see such good things that benefit the common people and are extremely helpful to their own cultivation. It is absolutely impossible for this matter to be caused by demons, charms, etc. It is more like there are immortals and others here to cultivate and make breakthroughs. As the deity of this county, even if I am not a person in the immortal way, I can't lose my courtesy, no matter what the spiritual rain is. Whether it is man-made or Gajavan, we should visit. What does Zhang Tudi think? What Zhao Chenghuang said is very true, that's exactly what he meant. Zhao Chenghuang then sent a literate judge who could speak to the Suanmu sect. Na Wenjian was dressed in a snow-white brocade robe, and had a refined temperament. Although he was a city god, he didn't have the slightest ghost. When he arrived at the front of the courtyard, he didn't knock on the door. I don't know where the master is cultivating here. The city god of Yuyang sat down with the judge Su Yu and came to pay his respects. As soon as the judge arrived, Yun Su noticed something. He became an immortal cultivator overnight, with sharp ears and eyes, and he was extremely sensitive in spiritual sense. This person is one of the few groups of qi that I sensed just now. Yuyang city god, Yin Si Wenjuan, and the scent of incense that was completely different from mortals. Yun Su's mind turned rapidly, and he practiced overnight. Such a big movement would definitely attract the attention of this kind of divine existence. Wang Suanji and the other three little guys fell asleep long ago in the secret room, so Yun Su could only come forward by himself. According to the method of mana operation that Yun Su had just mastered, he motivated the villain of the Sea of Consciousness. A strange suction came, and all the mana was sucked into the mysterious space where the longevity cloud platform was located, and it was completely hidden. Silk mana, not even mana fluctuations. Then Su Juing invited him twice before Yun Su opened the door, and he had already thought of the countermeasures in his heart. The first time Yun Su saw the judge of the Yin division, she felt that this person was upright, which was a little different from the person of the Yin division in her imagination. In Xia Yun Su, I met Judge Su. Su Yu looked at Yun Su, and only felt that this person had a good-looking face, a righteous body, and there was no sinister color. With the power of incense and fire on him, at a glance, it can be seen that Yun Su is not a practitioner, and there is no mana fluctuation. Young Master Yun, Su is just a messenger. Lord Chenghuang and Lord Tudi of this county are over there. Can we see you easily? Su Yu felt that Yun Su was a mortal person, but he couldn't rule out that the other party was not a servant of the family of Xiangziu. He had not seen an expert come forward 3 times just now, so he was too embarrassed to continue to ask if there was any expert in the broken house behind the door. Nature is convenient. Yun Su didn't say much, instead of evading it, making others suspicious, and sneaking in to snoop, it's better to invite over. At this time, it was pouring rain in the courtyard, and even the snow was washed away. Su Yu was afraid that Yun Su would be drenched by the winter rain, so he signaled to wait for a while, then turned back and invited the Chenghuang and the land to the courtyard. Naturally, Zhao Chenghuang and Zhang Tudi also saw that Yun Su was a mortal person, so they asked straight to the point about what happened just now. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. Yunsu was prepared long ago, but hesitantly appeared on his face, and then he said, "Last night, after Yun fell asleep, there seemed to be an old man who came to sleep at the house in a dream. I saw that he was pitiful and agreed. Later, there were many visions, but I don't remember what happened." Zhao Chenghuang and Zhang Tudi looked at each other and whispered in secret again. "Lord Chenghuang, this son seems to have an adventure. I don't know if it's an immortal's dream or his real body. I can see this son's appearance is dignified, his face is neutral, and there is a spiritual light looming in the palace of life. It is obviously an extraordinary opportunity. The Lord of the Earth is right, but just now I can't see the back of the spirit sea. Now the entire Suanmu sect can be seen in a glance, and there is no abnormality. In any case, since this person is here, it is somewhat related to this change, and it cannot be regarded as an ordinary person. Moreover, facing you and me, this person is neither humble nor arrogant or fearful. Either he has something to rely on, or he has the righteousness in his heart, and he is upright." Zhao Chenghuang also had some guesses in secret. Could it be that there was an expert immortal cultivator who used a secret method to induce the Linghe to pour down the river to wash the marrow of this person? Zhao Chenghuang and Zhang Degong also stopped mentioning the vision just now, but instead comforted a few words, and then they said goodbye and left without mentioning each other. Yunsu stood in front of the big hole in the front gable wall and watched the incense lights escape. According to rumors, most of the Chenghuang land is a virtuous generation, and they specialize in incense and divine Taoism. Generally, they don't care about the world, but they don't dare to believe it. However, when facing these three people just now, Yunsu had a clear understanding in his heart. Not only could he see through their heels and feet, but also through the divine light of incense, he could see the various merits and visions inside, creating a feeling that the other party was very weak. Even when she was talking, Yunsu couldn't help lowering her voice, for fear that she might accidentally blow out the other party's incense and divine light in one breath. Although there is no way to do it now, this feeling is very clear and real. After sending away the land of the city god, the horizon is turning white. The heavy rain is still falling. Yunsu has liked rain very much since she was a child. When it rains, it seems that there is a lot of movement, but it makes people feel calm, not anxious, and rarely has any sudden disturbance. Peace of mind and leisure. The night wind is mixed with moisture, and a strong spiritual energy is poured in. It is obviously the season of heavy snow in the deep winter, but the wind and rain are warm, like the heavy rain in midsummer. The rain kept falling. Yunsu was lying on the bed without sleepiness, and his mind sank into the longevity space in the sea of consciousness. Just when he said goodbye to Chenghuang land and others, the longevity space in the sea of knowledge suddenly changed, and there was nothing above the longevity cloud platform. Among them, a token glowing with dazzling purple ons actually condensed, with two odd ancient characters on it: longevity. Immortal decree of immortality. Consuming this thing, you can travel around the void and get some kind of adventure. The amazing thing is that there is a mist on the immortal token, and the mist is faintly visible from the sky, and thousands of creatures and mountains and rivers are moistened. When Yunsu was hesitating whether to use the immortal token immediately, a rumbling sound came from the roof, and a large piece of the roof collapsed. When I met the guests at the door just now, I found that the rain on the mountain was much heavier than the rain down the mountain. I was a little worried about whether the dilapidated house could withstand the heavy rain. Law fell asleep. Yunsu rolled up the quilt and took the profound opening sutra. He condensed the mana in his right hand and lifted it up to the roof. The pouring rain was temporarily blocked from the outside, and then he quickly pushed the door and entered the hall. The lanterns in the hall were still on, and the rain outside was too heavy, but there was no damage here. I looked at the kitchen again, and there was some water leakage. I took the bucket to catch the rain, and after thinking about it, I pushed the door and went back to the west room. At the door towards the corner of the front gable, use the mana, shake it with a palm and push it out. Silently, a large hole collapsed, and the rainwater accumulated in the house finally found a drainage outlet and flowed to a low place outside, so that other wall foundations would not be soaked, and it would not be poured into the hall. It was about to dawn, and there was another sound of Wang Suanji getting up from the secret room, and Yunso could not rest assured and go to wander around Tegzu, looking for the unknown opportunity. It is not advisable to stay on Yaishan for a long time. First, there is a vision of heaven and earth, and there is another spiritual reign. The city and the land come, and maybe other practitioners will be attracted. Yunsu has an incarnation of mana in this time and space, and is extremely lacking in magic. He needs time to consolidate his cultivation, find magic, and study the method. It is not suitable for 5 little guys to continue to live in Yaishan, which has only one hall. When the rain stops in the morning, you should go down the mountain as soon as possible. Creak. Wang Suanji pushed aside the partition, climbed up from the secret room, and was surprised to see Yunsu sitting on the futon. Big brother Yun, why are you here? Last night, the rain was too heavy, the west room collapsed, and the kitchen was leaking, so I had to take shelter here. What? The little girl immediately pushed the door and went to the west room to see that most of the front gable had collapsed and the roof had collapsed. She looked at the kitchen again and found that the rain was leaking. Brother Yun, I slept too hard last night. Wang Suanji felt a little remorse for himself. Zijian had collapsed like this, but he slept like a pig. She hadn't slept so comfortably in a long time. She felt warm all night, and even the cold was gone. She tried to stretch her arms and legs, and the usual sourness and coldness disappeared. I slept quite warmly last night, and even the cold symptoms on my body are gone. It's going to rain and the house is going to collapse. Let it go. It's your cold symptoms. See if it's better in a few days. Yunsu used to be afraid of the cold, especially after waking up in the snow, the kind of freezing cold that ordinary people can't bear. According to Wang Suanji, her cold symptoms are not only cold when it is snowing, but also cold when it is raining. Big brother Yun, what should we do in the future? Yunsu saw the sadness on the little girl's face, so she squatted on the futon beside her, her brows furrowed, her hands resting on her little face, her mouth tightly pursed. A 12-year-old girl was already making a living for several people. Worried. This rain has melted the snow outside. After the rain stops, let's go down the mountain to eat something and settle down in Yuyang City. Yunsu first entered the spirit of transformation, leaving this place of right and wrong. There are still many things to do. Wang Suanji nodded sensible and went to work in the kitchen. After a while, the fire started, and he took out the bird meat hidden in the jar and simmered it in one pot. When the meat was fragrant, it was just dawn. The 2 little guys also got out of the secret room, and Wang Suanji returned to the secret room to carry Wang Suanyu out, and mixed a little broth with the remaining paste to feed her. Yunsu saw that Wang Suanji was busy and wanted to help, but was rejected by the little girl, saying that his injuries were not healed, and he was not suitable for these rough jobs. The meal was eaten quickly, the little girl's craftsmanship was good, the broth was delicious. Yunsu's cultivation had entered the realm of spiritual transformation, and there was no hunger in her stomach, so she left the meat to the 3 little guys to drink. Had a few bowls of soup. Wang Suanji quickly packed up, and carefully packed more than 3 taels of silver in a purse, and then separated more than a dozen copper coins with some pits on the surface and handed them over to Yunsu. The rest were books, clothes and shoes. Trousers, packed a large bag with sheets. The rain had stopped outside, and the road down the mountain was extremely muddy. Yunsu locked the only hall, found a smaller door bar, picked a package at one end, and a basket at the other, with 4 little guys in it. Walked out the door with Wang Suanji. When parting, the little guys turned back frequently, looking at the ruined Suanmu sect reluctantly. Wang Suanwen and Wang Suanmu were looking forward to the world below the mountain. Wang Suanyu was full and fell asleep, licking himself. White tender little fingers. When he was about to lose sight of the Suanmu sect, Wang Suanji turned around and bowed 3 times to the ruins. Tears flashed in his eyes, and he was quite reluctant to part. The 3 little guys in the basket also learned to bow slightly. Brother Yun, can we come back in the future? Most definitely. Yunso carried the burden and looked into the distance at the foot of the mountain. With her powerful eyes, she could vaguely see many villages. It seemed that the road ahead was not far. At this time, shoulder to shoulder and hand in hand, compared with those protagonists in novels, movies, and TV dramas who are either overflowing with immortality or floating out of the dust, they are not like immortals in the realm of gods, but more like fleeing. The grace of dripping water is reciprocated by the spring. This is Yunsu's way of being a human being. The mountain road was slippery, but Yunsu walked faster and faster. On the way, he didn't encounter any demons or ghosts, nor did he encounter any immortal people. The heavy rain had just stopped, the sky had just dawned, and there was not a single pedestrian on the mountain road. Mana poured out from under his feet, 1 step at a time, and he walked faster and faster without realizing it. When he saw the village, he slowed down. After walking for another half an hour, he saw a small town in the distance. The city wall is more than 2 feet high, with the word Yuyang on the lintel of the city wall. The bustling people who enter the city are all coming to the early market, some carrying baskets, some pushing wheelbarrows. Wang Suanji had long ago reprimanded the little guys for walking down and walking by himself. Yunsu originally thought that carrying luggage and baskets like this would make her look very different with a few babies, but it turns out that many people use baskets, carry children on their backs, and bring 2 or 3 babies with them. It is very common. There are 7 or 8 of them, and the couple is carrying it on their backs, making it extremely lively. The big buns that just came out of the oven, the delicious big buns. Selling fish, let's have a look at the delicious salted fish. Our shop has newly purchased a batch of high-quality Zhangzhou fabrics, which are in excellent condition. The broom, the iron tree broom, is easy to use and durable, and the price is fair. The screams of vendors, the cries and laughter of children, the scolding of adults, and many people are also talking about the warm rain in the middle of the night. There are many shops on both sides of the main road of the county town. There are many kinds of rice, noodles, and oils in the grain and oil shop. The cotton cloth and silk in the cloth shop come in more than a dozen colors and styles. It is indeed a commercial port standing by the river. The dazzling array of goods and various hawking sounds attracted a few little guys, especially when they walked in front of the hawker selling sugar balls. Even Wang Suanji was a little greedy, and he kept swallowing his saliva, and the other 3 boys were completely greedy. I couldn't help it, and looked at Yunsu eagerly. Guest officer, the sugar that have just been baked, give the young masters and young ladies a few strings, each string is a copper coin. Yunsu saw that the candy looked like candied haws, and seeing that the little guys were already greedy, he took out 4 copper coins and handed them to the candy bartender. 5 bunches of candy are 4 pieces. If you can, I will buy them. Seeing that the hawker of sugar could sell 5 strings, after a little hesitation, he took the copper coins and asked a few little guys to choose. After a while, the 5 strings of sugar haws were in hand. Yunsu saved 2 for Wang Suanyu to eat, and tasted 1 for himself. The remaining 4 are divided among the 4 little guys, each one eats 1 more. By the way, I inquired about where I can rent houses in Yuyang City. The sugar ball hawker looked at a few children and pointed in a direction, saying that there was a shop and house business set up by the government next to the county office, and there were many houses for rent. Sale. After thanking the hawker, Yunsu readjusted his burden and went straight to the county office in the north of the city. Sure enough, next to the county office, he found a shop with a rental and sales sign hanging at the door. The only silver tail on his body is naturally unable to buy a house, and staying in an inn is not worthwhile. After Yunsu explained his intention, the clerk first asked about his place of birth and birth. The sect token under the sect did not ask any more, and took out 2 books. The houses listed on the A book are for sale, and the B books are all available for rent. Yunsu glanced at the houses for sale. Although Yuyang County is not a state capital, there is a river terminal outside the city, and the house price is still high. Each house has a simple drawing with simple information on it. A cheap set also costs 37 taels. Yunsu thinks these single-family houses are good, but the price is unbearable, and the money on her body is not even a fraction. Originally, I wanted to see if there were any cheap haunted houses for sale, but I was naturally disappointed. The number of houses listed in the B-book is even more. The courtyards that are too expensive pass by directly. I only look at those single-family courtyards whose prices are not high. In the end, I really chose a small courtyard in the west of the city. The little official didn't say much, and called an errand to take Yunsu to see it. Guest officer, what's your surname? Just call me Wang Er. My surname is Yun. Carrying a burden and carrying a few babies, Yunsu followed Wang Er around the corner and came to a quiet alley. To the left was a larger yard, with high walls and bright tiles. There were many birds flying and singing happily. On the side is a dilapidated courtyard. There are 4 big characters on the lintel of the small courtyard, Qing Feng Ziazu. Most of the tile ridges on the walls of the courtyard are incomplete, revealing the grey-white glutinous rice mortar inside. The drainage in the corners of the walls is poor, many bricks and stones have been eroded by water and weathered, and some weeds have grown in the cracks of the bricks. Standing outside the courtyard gate, I can see an old withered tree. The trunk of the tree within sight is as big as a bucket. I just saw Yunsu on the corner of the street. There is no life as far as I can see. The wind blows and snows, and the twigs are broken, which looks very desolate together with this broken courtyard. The 2 door buttons on the courtyard door are a little rusted, a large lock is half new and half old, and the 2 doors are a little old, but unlike other courtyard doors I saw along the way, they were covered with stones and charcoal. Children's playthings are messed up. Yunsu stared at the sky above the small courtyard. There was a faint lingering bad luck. The spiritual rain last night didn't dampen the bad luck here, so it's no wonder that the monthly rent is only 300 cents. Mr. Su, look at this mansion. It's an authentic small courtyard. Although the place is a bit remote, you can see that the spacious hard rock dam is not afraid of rain. Wang Er took the key to open the courtyard door, and there was a screen wall on the front, blocking people's sight. When he went around the screen wall, he saw a spacious courtyard dam. Now it is also overgrown with weeds, about half the height of a person, and there are 2. This is a dry bird's nest that has been abandoned long ago. There is a large pool in the northwest corner of the courtyard dam. There is a large rockery beside the pool. The entire large pool is about 3 feet in diameter. Big brother Yun, how can you live here? Wang Xuanji looked at the grass that was taller than himself and asked worriedly. Wang Er's face was also a little bit overwhelmed. Seeing that this job was going to be dirty, he hurriedly advised, the little girl doesn't know something. Recently, there has been a lot of rain and snow in the local area, and the grass is growing faster, but you can see this hard rock courtyard dam, a large pond, and an old well there for your own use, which is very suitable for you. Yunsu put the burden under the porch and asked Wang Xuanji and the others to play there, under the pretext of looking at the yard again, and went inside with Wang Erchao. What's the origin of this yard? It used to be the courtyard of a merchant in the city. When the owner committed a crime, the house was confiscated. Mr. Su, you can see that the rent is only 300 cents a month, and you can't find a better one if you search all over the city. If you rent it, I, Wang Er, will cut the weeds for you and clean it up. Yunsu was silent, and he didn't expect to hear any truth from this Wang Er's mouth. Looking at it, there was no problem with the ancient well, and there was no problem with a few rooms. It wasn't until his eyes swept across the large pool that Yunsu knew in his heart that there was a problem here. When Wang Er saw Yunsu's gaze swept over him, he felt as if he was standing naked on the street and being stared at. He was startled, looked at the barren yard, and gritted his teeth. "Mr. Su, if you rent it out, and if you are satisfied with the yard after a while, I will run it for you, and ask that shop's housekeeper to sell this mansion to you cheaply." Yun-Su didn't bother to talk to such a sleazy person in the market anymore, so he agreed to rent it, on the premise that the weeds in the yard must be removed and the yard must be cleaned. Wang Er agreed, thinking that he would pay from the public account, and the shopkeeper would also agree. The house is not very clean, and the locals would dare to rent it. After that, it was easy to do. After paying the 50 yuan deposit, Yun-Su put down her courage, hugged Wang Xuanyu, and took a few little guys out for lunch. At an alley not far from King Fengxiazu, there is a restaurant facing the street, with 5 small tables, and a large bamboo mat on the top to cover the rain and snow. They sell wontons, which surprised Yun-Su a little. The signboard of the restaurant reads 3 words Wonton Zhang. The store owner is in his 30s, warm-hearted, and quite talkative. Seeing that Yun-Su is bringing a few children, he doesn't look like a local. The wontons are stuffed with cabbage and pork. Although there is not much pork in each wonton, the cabbage is very authentic. There is no such old vegetables. Coarse salt and shallots. Yun-Su added a little vinegar to the bowl of the sea. The taste is much better than the one eaten on earth, but unfortunately there is no chili. "Seller, your wontons taste good. Hey, guest, you know how to eat. I am the 3rd generation of this wonton shop. I don't dare to fake the thin-skinned meat stuffing, and it takes a whole night to make soup with big bones. It's delicious, but the name is a bit weird." The 4 little guys ate soup, and the corners of their mouths were full of soup. Wang Xuanyu could eat them the most, 1 bite at a time. Haha, the word wonton means chaos. In some places, it is also called wonton. If it is delicious, eat more. Yun-Su sighed softly in her heart, and the earth doesn't know when she will be able to go back to see it again. The big bowl is 2 cents, the small bowl is 1 cent, and the portion is not small. Yun-Su eats a large bowl, and the little guys eat a small portion. Even a few months old fish and little girl ate 3. Wang Xuanyu also added a small bowl. Yun-Su is no longer a mortal person. After a night of fasting, although he is not hungry, the food tastes delicious. A bowl of wontons and a bowl of chaos noodle soup are very comfortable. Guest officer, the former owner of Qing Fengxiazu, committed an accident and was killed. His wife committed suicide by throwing water into the water. The house is not very clean. You should think twice about bringing a few children. Taking advantage of the opportunity to count the money, Store Zhang approached Yun-Su and whispered a few words in his ear. Yun-Su nodded, paid 7 copper coins, and didn't say much. When he returned to Qing Fengxiazu, the yard was cleaned up. Yun-Su swept his eyes and found that the corridor, room and kitchen had been cleaned, and the weeds were uprooted and cleaned up, but the pool was not cleaned. Wang Er waited there with 3 small workers, saw Yun-Su nodded, and then gave the 3 9 copper coins to send them away. "Mr. Su, I also brought the lease documents. The deposit is paid for 3 months at a time. I told the adults that the deposit will be waived for you by you reading www.youkansha.com. Yun-Su looked at the document, and it was clear at a glance that it was a standard document. It said that the lease term was 1 year, 300 cents a month, and the rent was paid once in 3 months. He took a small piece of silver. Wang Er had been prepared for a long time. After a brief inspection, he took out the scorpion and weighed it. He made up for the copper coins, and the money contract was cleared. He also said that if he wanted to buy the yard, he could go to the store and house affairs office to find him at any time, and he would definitely help to win. If you wait for a good price, then leave the key and walk quickly. After closing the courtyard door, the whole courtyard became quieter, with a sense of gloom and coldness. A few little guys rummaged here and there to look around. They had a good time but were not noisy. Different. Yunsu allocated the rooms, 2 main rooms. He lived in the east room, and the middle room was in the middle. Wang Xuanji and Wang Xuanyu lived in the west room, and the side room next to the west room was given to the 3 little guys, who slept in a full bed. The remaining 2 partial rooms are temporarily used for storage. The east side of the yard is the kitchen, which is not small and has its own firewood shed. Unfortunately, the pots and pans were either broken or missing, and were directly lost by the helpers. Seeing that it was still early, Yunsa simply took the children to go shopping and bought all the bedding, pots and pans, firewood, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, tea, and vegetables, and they couldn't buy the bad ones, because they bought too many, and they also specialized in them. Hired a scooter and pulled it back in one go. After all this was done, there was still 1 or 2 silver coins left to bring down the mountain, plus more than 100 copper coins. Renting a house, building a family home, Yunsu deeply felt the taste of spending money like flowing water, but the little guys were having fun. Wang Xuanji was sensible, and he felt a little distressed about money, but he also understood that it was money that must be spent. I was just thinking about how to help Big Brother Yun think of ways to make money together. As night fell, the little guys were tired after playing all day. Wang Xuanji made dinner early, a plate of scrambled eggs and a plate of scrambled vegetables. Wang Xuanyu ate a small bowl of rice porridge and eggs in plain water. Go home and sleep. Yunsu moved a rattan reclining chair and sat under the corridor, facing the large pool. The moonlight shone down on her body, as if immersed in it. Gradually, it seemed like he was dozing off. His mana was not present, his spiritual light was not visible. The moonlight shone into the large pool, and a white figure slowly rose up, looking at the people lying in the corridor, silently smiled and said, "It was difficult for someone to live in, and it happened to be a scapegoat, so that I could be freed." The white figure stretched out 2 arms, which became longer with a swish, nearly 10 feet, and quietly approached Yunsu, trying to pull him into the water. Suddenly, the sneering sneer of the white figure stopped, and it found that the man who was sleeping had opened his eyes and was looking at himself with a smile. "You water ghost, it's winter, don't you think it's strange that I lie here and sleep?" Seeing that pair of ghost hands wanted to withdraw, Yunsu's right hand condensed the mana and pulled it in the void. With a bang, the water ghost was pulled out of the water. Looking closely at the lake, the black filaments that looked like algae in the daytime turned out to be the water ghost's hair. The water ghost let out a scream, and her long hair was blown away. It was a female ghost, revealing a festering and scary grimace that was soaked white by the pool water. The confused mind has been lost, his face is sluggish, and he is very panicked when he is suddenly pulled out of the water. "Please, die for me once." The water ghost was in midair, still begging the person in front of him to die. Unfortunately, the next moment, when I got closer, a flash of inspiration flashed on Yunsu's body, and the water ghost melted like snow before he could even let out a scream, and disappeared completely from this world in a flash. The ghost's ghost body went deep into the pool, blisters the size of eggs and white smoke curled up, and the ghost hair entangled in the bottom of the water also melted away. Yunsu was stunned for a moment, but he didn't cast spells, and even his mana was useless. Could it be that the realm of transformation is really like what is said in the Tongxian Sutra? It is the level of immortals in the legends of mortals. In the big pool, even the daytime looks overwhelming, but I didn't expect to be directly illuminated by myself like the sun shining on the snow. He was highly vigilant and focused. The expected battle did not happen at all, and he did not alert the city god Yin division. The female ghost who wanted to find a dead ghost just disappeared. Once the female ghost dies, the whole big pool will no longer have the disgusting filthy ghostly aura in the daytime. Just now, when a ghost appeared on Yunsu's body, an invisible force vibrated, and the bad luck of the entire small courtyard was swept away. The moonlight and starlight from the sky illuminated the courtyard, which was clearer and clearer, no longer faint. It was drowsy, and the night scene was pleasant for a while. After cleaning up the dirty things, the children slept more comfortably, breathing slowly and slowly, smacking their lips and talking in their sleep, and Yunsu returned to the house only now. I took out the Tong Xianjing and read the content of the third chapter carefully, and I no longer felt obscure and difficult to understand. The explanations on spiritual energy, mana, and magic techniques in it have many merits. Those little tricks, the methods are wind clearing, eyes canting and expelling evil. King Fengshu is an upgraded version of Qing Gong. Using this method, it is easy to fly over eaves and walls and move around. Squinting is a kind of blinding technique, which is very low level and can only deceive people's eyes when they are not prepared. Dispelling evil is used to deal with ordinary ghosts and evil spirits. With the Taoism and cultivation in the spirit transformation realm, the three techniques are extremely simple, and they can be done with a little scrutiny. After putting away the profound opening sutra, Yunsu undressed and lay down, his mind sank into the longevity space, and a little bit of the immortal decree of longevity was aroused. With a buzz, an extremely mysterious feeling came. On this immortal decree of longevity, there is a black-yellow qi entanglement, which is carried away again and again in the last week, like a living thing. Taking a closer look, it seems that there are countless rains swirling in the mysterious yellow air, and you can vaguely see the rain falling, moisturizing the mountains, rivers, and fertile soil, and many creatures benefit. A shower of sweet rain when I entered the Dao can actually help me condense an immortal decree of longevity. Yunsu vaguely sensed some of the connections here. Planting flowers will not bloom, but planting willows and willows will make shade. This may be the opportunity mentioned on the road of cultivation. Communicate with the longevity cloud platform and use the immortal decree of immortality, and the immortal decree bursts out a mass of mysterious yellow light that turns into a path of emptiness, which appears out of thin air in the immortality space. Yunsu only felt a suction force coming, so he transformed into a shadow of nothingness, jumped on the path of nothingness, and entered the depths of nothingness with a swoosh. Once you enter Taizhou, it is foggy in all directions, and it is impossible to see it. If he hadn't clearly remembered that he activated the immortal token of longevity just now, he turned into nothingness and jumped onto the bridge of light. At this moment, he was wandering in Taizhou, and the confused Yunsu would most likely have asked 3 questions from his soul. This kind of feeling is like dreaming of falling from an infinitely high cloud, and then not falling to the ground all night, just maintaining a sense of weightlessness and falling all night. It's a bit like suddenly turning into a tiny speck of dust in a dream, surrounded by giant beings, like ants shaking a mountain. Here, Yunsu felt that what was insignificant, what was mysterious and indescribable, was completely indescribable in words. The word Taizhou has some legends and explanations in the age of the earth. Some people say it is a mysterious place, some people say it is Tao, some people say it is a certain realm, mysterious and mysterious. Today, I wandered here for a long time. Yunsu still didn't know what Taizhou was. In this turbulent emptiness, the only reference objects that can make people feel that time is passing are some vortexes. After wandering for a while, you can encounter a whirlpool. What is behind these whirlpools, no one knows. You reading www.yukanshu. In the information of Kamchong Sheng Yuntai, it only mentioned that you can travel in the void and obtain some kind of adventure by chance, but after floating for a long time, there is nothing except seeing countless whirlpools. 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, the standard used for timekeeping in the past is invalid. Yunsu is not in a hurry to go out. As soon as he comes, he is at ease. The little information just came from the longevity cloud platform, indicating that a longevity immortal Ling can wander around in Taizhou for a period of time. The exact time is not clear, but it will not be the end of the wandering. When I go back, I find that the little guys are all grey-haired. This kind of chaotic feeling of time seems to have passed 10,000 years for a while, and then it seems to be just the blink of an eye. At this moment, a whirlpool suddenly appeared. Yunsu was sucked in by accident. After a violent rotation, he fainted. When he opened his eyes again, he saw another grey and chaotic world. This place is different from Fangke. When I first entered Taixu, it was completely empty, except for the mysterious whirlpools that appeared from time to time. There was nothing, no people, no demons, no treasures, not even real clouds and smoke. And here seems to be chaotic, but in fact it is full of an indescribable rhythm, or rules. As a practitioner, the rules that can be perceived. Yunsu didn't know what that kind of rule was, maybe it was too mysterious. Most importantly, this time, I can see something. In all directions, countless turbulent currents are surging, and there is a faint purple swishing away from the distance. Yunsu raised his eyes and looked at it. I don't know how far ahead, something was moving in the depths of chaos. After a while, I saw a huge indescribable person walking from the depths of chaos, breaking through countless chaotic currents. Take slow strides.